Hello and welcome to this Astranti bite-sized video. Today's video is a quick look at the importance of culture. We're not talking about Mozart, we're not talking about the Renaissance, we're talking about culture in a business environment. And in this 8 minutes, you're gonna learn, everything that you need to know about why culture is so important in a business and what are the problems of a strong culture in organization. So let's get going with today's video. And we're going to begin with a definition of culture, which I think I'll read through it for you. Culture is the name for what people are interested in, their thoughts, their models, the books they read, and the speeches they hear. Their table talk, gossip, controversies, historical sense, and scientific training, the values they appreciate, the quality of life they admire. All communities have a culture. It is the climate of their civilization. And that was written by Walter Lippmann. And I think what this definition shows, and why we've included it in this video, is that it gives a real sense of the importance and influence of culture in any organization. Now, we've already seen with Alison's new job, organizational culture has a wide-ranging influence on the organization and its approach, despite often being unofficial. So let's have a look and see what these influences can include. Because remember, what we're looking at in this section is the impact of culture on organizations. So the first of these influences is action orientated. So basically what we're talking about here is taking new opportunities, or for employees being task focused. The next impact of culture on an organization is centralization or decentralization, So the culture might state whether decisions are expected to be made only at the top of the organization, which would of course be centralization, or if they can be passed down through the organizational structure, decentralization. Culture can also affect or influence the treatment of staff, or the management style, or the customer, product, production, or sales orientation, or the level of innovation in the organization, or future strategies, such as, does the organization have an attitude that welcomes expansion, or perhaps it influences the approach of staff. Are they hardworking? Are they motivated? Or do they leave early on Fridays? Or the approach, does the organization value quality, or does it value efficiency? And it may also influence the treatment of customers and the level of service provided. So what we're seeing here is there's a really wide-ranging kind of influences and impacts that culture has on an organization. Now, culture is important because it influences behaviors in the organization, and it also ensures consistency of approach, even if no rules exist. What this means, though, is that any issues in an organization's culture are going to have to be addressed, because we've just seen how many different aspects of an organization it influences. And the fact there are no rules means that if there are problems, obviously an organization has to address them, otherwise it could cause problems for the organization. And remember, and so it's vital that if there are any issues in an organization's culture, it has to be addressed. But we've just seen how many aspects of an organization culture influences. So, of course, if there are problems, then the organization will have to address them. So how does an organization address any issues in its culture? Well, they can do it through a variety of measures, such as change management programs, ethical programs, quality management, HR programs, for example, to improve staff motivation or efficiency, or changes in business strategy. Now, one source of cultural conflict can be when different internal and external groups have different views and perspectives based on their own cultural norms. So cultural differences need to be managed so as to avoid any negative conflict. Now, making sure that the company's culture is consistent with the organization's future direction is also critical to strategic success. Because, of course, if the company's future strategy has a focus on expansion, say, yet the company's culture just isn't set up to enable or influence that expansion, then obviously it could ruin that organization's chance at achieving its strategic aims. Okay, so now what we're going to do is have a look at some advantages or disadvantages of having a strong organizational culture. So we've seen already strong cultures in organizations can influence how people relate to the company, both internally, between employees, for example, and externally. So different reactions from stakeholders such as customers and suppliers. So what we're going to look at now is how a strongly held culture can have both positive and negative impacts on a company. So the advantages of a strong culture. Firstly, a strong culture can bring staff together and minimize any perceived differences between them and their beliefs. It unites them, it unifies them, A strong culture can also reinforce the organization's values and beliefs amongst the staff and make sure that the values are continued to be held by the organization. A strong culture can also make communication and coordination within the organization more effective, and it can also direct the formation of the organization's strategy and can therefore affect its ability to respond to change. Strong culture also can help regulate staff norms and behaviour and can give staff a sense of belonging and a social identity by being part of the organisation. So there are the advantages of a strong culture. Now let's turn our attentions to the downsides, the disadvantages of a strong culture. Now, strong culture can cause conflicts between different cultures interacting and clashing. So let's imagine, for example, that one organisation acquires another and both organisations have totally different cultures. Well, that can then cause difficulties for the acquisition and how that organisation can then move forward. A strong culture can also blind the organisation and its staff to any outside changes and therefore negatively affect the organisation's ability to adapt. It can also promote and reinforce negative values or behaviours in the workforce. So let's imagine, for example, with our Alison example again. Well, let's imagine that the organisation, or the department in the organisation, decided to leave at lunchtime on a Friday. And everyone felt that they could do that because everyone was taking part. Well, there we go. That culture, that strong culture, where no one wants to stand out, so they all act in the same way, can promote negative values. A strong culture can also be difficult to change or update. So let's imagine, for example, that an organisation has a new strategy, but the old strategy and the old culture worked really well. Well, the organisation might have to change the culture to help support this new strategy. And if it's strong, that can be very difficult to do. And it also can be very harmful to have a culture that isn't in line with the organisation's environment. So let's imagine, for example, that we've got a creative and innovative company culture, but it's in an industry that requires repetition and uniformity. So there we go. There's advantages and disadvantages of a strong culture and how issues with culture can be addressed. So there we go, a quick video on why culture is so important to organisations and everything that you need to know about it for your E2 exams. And if you need to study for your E2 exams, then be sure to check out the full course material on our Astranti website. We offer everything from videos right through to practice questions. Or perhaps you just want to make sure you keep getting access to these types of videos, well then be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching today and good luck with your exams.